Thank you very much, Rosemary. I feel like dancing already. Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. I heard about these three young men, three sons. They were always competing with each other for their mother's love. Aww. When Mom got older, the three men had gone out into the world to make their own way and success, and the mom, who became blind, had to stay at home. They were always competing with each other, these young sons were. And one of the older sons, he said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to build her a custom house, have it ready for Christmas. So he did that. Next son said, well, I know what I'm going to do. Give her a luxury car that she can be driven around in. Gave her that. Other son, younger, smarter, wise. He said, I'm going to outsmart all of them. Mom is a mom of faith. And he got a parrot, specially trained, that knew the entire Bible and other scriptures and wisdom and could quote things for hours and hours and hours. Most amazing parrot on the planet Earth. Gave it to Mom. A few months later, the boys thought, that's kind of weird. We haven't heard anything. Finally, they got a letter. She says, Dear sons, oh, thank you for your love, but the house was so big, it was just too big for me. And that luxury car, it was just more than I needed. It was just too big for me. But that chicken you sent tasted absolutely perfect. For 4 weeks, we've been talking about launching into 2014. Are you with me on this? Launching. Now, I don't know if some of you noticed, but if you are students and observers of humans, kind of like I am, you might have noticed something Freudian that slipped out yesterday. I read my pastor's report about 2013, and the word launch was in there a number of times, and I didn't realize it until last night. The lights went off. I was like, oh, my word launch. I love the word launch. I told you that in January, the beginning of January, and there it was in the report, several places. Launch this, launch this, launch. It's fun. It's a fun word. And so when we go into 2014, what a great premise, right? To begin every single week with this idea. We're launching forward into a brand new year. And so every week we've been tying together some practical tools of how to move forward into 2014 feeling good, feeling empowered. And today what I want to bring to you is this idea, and we're going to explain it a couple ways, unlike those three sons that didn't quite get it, I think, is that we are always moving forward, forever and ever. It's never going to end. You know, we quite often, because we're sequential, we think, when we get the gift, then we'll be happy. When we get the goal, then we'll be done. But as we know, whether you get a house or a car, whatever gift you get, we're never quite done, are we? When you get that goal of the coveted position or parenthood, right? It's quite often, it's just the beginning, isn't it? I heard about a true story from Los Angeles. A fellow pastor told me that there was a change of this true story in Los Angeles, true story of a change of leadership where one outgoing minister was turning over this very challenging congregation to a new young minister. And when the older minister came in, introduced the younger minister to the congregation, there was quite a stir, and three very angry, upset people stood up, and they said, we will not allow this to continue. And so the young minister said, well, you three gentlemen, please sit down. And they said, no. And so he said, everyone else, will you please stand? And they did. And the older minister tapped him on his shoulder and said, good luck, son, and hit the back door. What you think is sometimes the end all, right? It's actually just the beginning, isn't it? It's a new doorway. It's a new beginning to something else. And this is what our principle, that we are these divine souls that are eternal. That's partly what it's talking about. This creation of what you are as soul being whenever it started, it wasn't done then, right? It wasn't done on day one or when you were 18. Is it done today? No, it's going to continue to evolve and evolve and evolve. We never get it done. We're always moving forward. And I think we can kind of get out of what some of the Hindu teachings and the Buddhists point to as the cyclical suffering. We can get out of some of that just by saying, I'm not done yet. We're positively moving forward. We don't have to worry too much or shed tears over something. Oh, this spilled milk. Oh, this is horrible. It didn't work out. It's not done. It's a doorway, a beginning to move forward. And if we can begin to look at more and more situations like that, we would, I think, be so freed up. So freed up. There was one time, as an example, I was in a place you might have heard of called Palm Springs. Have you heard of it? Raise your hands. Don't raise two hands. You'll look too energetic. And for the first time in Palm Springs, I got to go up the tram, up the back of this amazing mountain called San Jacinto. And even though I had grown up on the west side of it, backpacking on the front of the mountain, I had never in my life, until after the age of 40, gone up the back side of the mountain, up this amazing tram to the very, very top. From my memory as a child, and I have pictures of me sitting on the top, there's a peak with a rock, and there's a sign with the elevation, and I have pictures of me sitting there as a kid. And that was my memory. The peak was these rocks on the top. But then after 40, I got to go up the tram, up to the top, and I realized that before you get to this outcropping called the peak, there's a meadow here, there's a meadow over here, there's a little valley over here. There's all these amazing places. And the person that I went with, who was supposed to be my tour guides often think they know everything. Have you ever noticed that? And sometimes they have letters after their name that proves how educated they are. And so I went with my tour guide because it was supposed to be very spiritual. And I went. My middle name is Explorer, actually. Drew Explorer. And so there we were. Even though I was tired, I had thought, I was going to obediently follow the tour guide to show me this amazing peak. I did so. Until he chose one little place in the meadow to meditate. Oh, I had just discovered a whole brand new world. The peak that for 25 years had been on the top of my head. No, it wasn't a bunch of rocks. It was much bigger than that. The exploration, hello friends, of planet Earth is much more exciting than just an ancient memory. Can I get an amen? I love it. And how exciting is this? Because I realized that what he wanted to do was to sit there and meditate for 2 hours. How nice for him. How wrong for me. I was excited. Wow, meadow here, rocks here, rocks there. And, in California, we don't have just like rocks. It's not like, oh, there's a rock. These are rocks bigger than your house. These are huge, huge rocks, right? Granite. On top of the mountain. They're amazing, inspiring. I want to walk around them. I want to walk on top of them. I want to see them from a distance. I want to see them up close. I don't want to sit for 2 hours in a lotus position, however so sacred and blissed out it is for the tour guide. And so I realized if I sat just far enough away from him, after he went into his deep meditation, I could start to inch away. And little by little, I crept away, and he didn't even know I had disappeared. Off into the meadow. Meadow here, boulders here, boulders there. And there I went, exploring and exploring and exploring. That began to be a picture that stuck in my head for quite a while. That quite often we can be, right, with well-meaning friends, well-meaning family, teachers, even mentors, that are sometimes showing us the way to go. But we are born explorers. Getting to the top doesn't mean, okay, now it's done. What does it mean to you? The attentiveness that you need in any situation is something that only you can see, only through your lenses. This is sacred. That's why the individuality, your uniqueness, is sacred. Because no one else can get it. You can try to explain it, right? But they still don't see it exactly from your perspective. And honoring. Can you imagine how frustrated I would have been if I had sat there in the lotus position for 2 hours and then he was ready to leave? Okay, we're going back down the mountain. I would have missed that opportunity. I followed that innate adventurer, that explorer that said, yes, I want to be free and run around. I want to explore what is in this area. I want to see what's in the area. We're born that way. And if we don't do that, we can take out frustration on the other human. Whether we call them spouse, teacher, mentor, loved ones. A beautiful quote that I ran across that kind of supports this is from the work of Abraham. And it's on the law, the magnetic law of attraction that holds everything together. The quote says, the universe, that means God and all the powers that be, knows all things and is responding to the vibration, which is our thoughts and our feelings, our vibration that you are sending. When you are sending your vibration on purpose, you are orchestrating what the universe is aligning for you. Being on our purpose. And that's from the Aramaic prayer. Being on our purpose, which no one else can know. For him, sitting in the lotus position, that was his purpose for that day, right? For me, I was like a kid in a candy store. Hello! Wow! A whole top of a mountain. Knowing my purpose at that moment to be infilled with this life-giving energy after having been cooped up in offices and buildings for months. To be free on the top of this amazing mountain is to experience the purpose that Drew showed up to be here on planet Earth. A part of. To be that adventurer and the explorer. What is your purpose? Are you being true to that? Not in terms of, am I going down a list? Because then we get messed up, right? That's why most, they say, by the second week of January, most people are kind of, hate their resolutions and their goals because they got out the dreaded checklist. No, we don't need a checklist. Just a soft attentiveness. Attentive to, are you aware of your purpose? What brings you here to planet Earth? What keeps you fueled up? So that you feel as though, and you're actually having the experience of this amazing forward movement. I'm moving forward with Spirit's help forever and ever. Knowing I'm never going to get it done. I don't have to get it right. I'm always moving forward. And the freedom that I experience is what I want to honor within myself. I was counseling for a few months with a gentleman we'll call Larry in a place called San Francisco, California. And he'd been experiencing AIDS for probably 23 years, longer than I can kind of remember. And what was really wonderful was after 23 years of battling this virus, he kept coming back, kept coming back, kept coming back. It didn't matter. I mean, almost everything within his being physically, at one time or another, quit working or had a problem. And it was amazing. Sometimes he would experience 3 or 4, 5 physical symptoms all at the same time. It was a lot of challenge. When I started counseling with him, he had about 4 or 5 challenges all at the same time and was in a hospital actually preparing to leave the planet. Or so he thought. And his partner called me to go counsel with him, to help him prepare and to kind of soften the drama and the pain of saying goodbyes, etc. And as I met with him, and this is a young man, amazingly talented, and I said to him, what your doctors say aside, do you feel like you're done and ready to leave? And he said, no way. And I said, can you for a moment begin to accept the idea that you're not going to leave till you're done? And he said, oh yes. And I said, can you for a moment believe that if the doctors are wrong, you might be getting better and better every day? He said yes. He had tears in his eyes. And I said, let's play a game. He said, okay. Games kind of soften a lot of things. I said, let's play a game. Do what you feel you should do, the doctors say. That's where he was. That's what he was paying them to do. And I said, but in your heart, begin to think and act and feel. Think, act, feel. The way you want to. He said, I can do that. Within a few days, his entire downward trend changed. And he was feeling better. Pretty soon he was up half of the night reading books. He was so interested in living again. His partner wanted to give me credit and was like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. We, as souls, have the ability, right, to know we're never going to get it done. We're never going to get it right. But we're always in evolution. This spiritual process of unfolding. The second example is a beauty too, I think. The second one is a lady who experienced grief, true story in California also, where she had experienced great loss at losing her husband. And one morning she got a great idea. As she looked out, there was a big mountainside next to her house that the freeway went by. And she said, you know what? In my husband's honor, I'm going to go out and just plant a few tulips. And so she did that. 3 or 4. A few days later, she thought, 3 or 4 tulips are nice. Wouldn't like 6 or 7 really be nice? She went out and got some more tulips. Oh, they were so beautiful. What appeared to be a very blah, gray-looking hillside all of a sudden began to sprout these beautiful tulips. She began to make it her annual tradition that month after month, year after year, she was the collector. She was the purchaser. She was the creator of this amazing hillside that was emerging of thousands and thousands of tulips. And as people passed by on the freeway, they could look over. You could not see it. Is that a double negative? You could not pass by this hillside and see the thousands and thousands of tulips. And her grief that she had held on to and caused her pain was turned into, wow, I love my husband so much. I love his memory. I love the inspiration he gives me each day. I love the gardening ability we have to change something that's blah or gray. We have the ability to change it. She turned this entire hillside into something that was magnificent. and beautiful as a little old retired lady, one tulip at a time. If I can enjoy a mountainside in any old way I want, and this guy named Larry can return from the doorway called the transition of death to health and well-being where he still is today, and if this lady can turn grief and suffering into a beautiful, beautiful expression of God's love, we too can remember. We too can use anything close by with that God power within and say, wow, I am emerging forward forever and ever. I'm never going to get it done. I don't have to get it right. I'm emerging forward forever and ever. Thank you. God bless.